Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts. Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
Thank you, Bruce and Brian Ross. Thank you both very much. So tonight, you're in for a treat. We have a wonderful guest with us this evening. He is the founder of Resilient People, which focuses on healing of child abuse. He is the CEO and founder of Sage Executive Solutions, which helps executives in different transitions. He is here with his wife, Ann, from Durango, Colorado. Please give a warm welcome to Rick Huttner.
So thank you so very much, Jen. Thank you, and beautiful music. And one of the things that song was "Believe in Your Future," and a lot about mastering resilience is believing in your future. Tragedy comes to us in many ways. It could be childhood abuse. It could be a youth in school getting criticized and singled out on social media and outcast from the in-group. It could be a death of a child, a parent, a partner, a spouse. Many of the things come into us at the exact time we don't want them, but they do affect us. And the key is, what is our resilient reserve, the resilient we have built up in us that we can deal with these issues and move through them. When I was a 13-year-old boy, I got sexually abused by a very good friend of the family who was also a policeman. And that went throughout a summer. And one of the things he said to me, and this was very confusing and very devastating. I had no knowledge or anything about sex at the time, but he told me how much he loved me and how special this was and how I could never, ever talk to anyone about it. And for 20 years, I never did. So what I did is I buried it. I didn't want to feel the feelings. I didn't want to feel the pain. So I did everything I could not to feel. I not only turned off those feelings, I turned off all feelings. I got attracted to alcohol at a very young age, became a functional alcoholic for 10 years. Now, I was a kid. I didn't have resources, and I didn't know who to go to, because this man was not only a good friend of the family, he was a policeman. So I just poured this onto myself and made decisions that I was a horrible person, that I did something horribly wrong. I didn't have resilience to help me through this. I didn't have the ability to make a decision to know that I was a child. It's the responsibility of the caregiver to take care of the child. So decisions are incredible things when things happen to us. What do we decide? I'm going to tell you a quick story I've always liked. I was at a spiritual healing seminar years ago, and one young lady there, about 35, stood up and mentioned how she had, in her mind, a very tragic childhood. She loved cookies, and a mother would bake cookies and then hide the cookies where she could always find them. And then when she found them and ate them, the mother would ridicule her about her weight and everything. And just so she made these decisions about herself that she wasn't worthwhile and carried that into her life. So he said something interesting. This really sparked something with me. He said, okay, does anyone else in this room have an experience whose mother did that psychological abuse. And this other woman said, yes, I had a mother did basically the same things, hid the cookies and then yelled at me. And he said, what did you decide? She said, I decided my mother was a jerk and it was her problem. Two different decisions, two different outcomes. Now, it took me a while to overcome the issues I had, because I dragged them through my life until I was close to 60 years old. I was very fortunate. I got this beautiful wife here who tolerated a lot of my depressions. I could get upset and carry it on for 3 weeks and all, but I finally got to something called Mankind Project, which is an international men's group whose mission is to create a better world, one man, one husband, one father at a time. And although I reluctantly went there because I was never comfortable around a group of men because of sexual abuse by a man. But I went, dipped my toe in a little bit, listened, and just realized this was a safe place where men could share their deepest hurts and feelings and never be joked about, ridiculed, or anything, supported and loved. And that is where I determined I could heal. And as I went through that, I determined I am healing here. And maybe I can help other people heal. And then people came into my life, Dr. Rosanna Skeers, a top psychologist here in Houston, dealing with the worst of abuse. And along with Rosanna and Chance Thoreau, who you'll get a chance to meet on Saturday, who is a senior leader in Mankind, has taught all over the world, we created Resilient People and a Resilient People workshop. So what I want you to know is this: you can recover anything. The only thing you can't recover is suicide. Suicide's a permanent solution to a temporary problem. I want to share with you another great story. I had a friend of mine who was a recruiter for a staffing company. And he worked for a guy who really liked him, and he was learning a lot. And one of his major clients was Martin Marietta. And they called him up and said, look, we know you don't do this, but we need a rocket scientist. We're not kidding you. We need a rocket scientist. And we know you don't do that, but we like you, we trust you, we want you to advertise for this, and we'll give you all the information. So he said, okay, good client and all, you do those things. So he posted it, and about 3 weeks later, he gets a phone call. And the gentleman says, do you still have that opening for a rocket scientist? And the guy says, yes. And he says, I'm your man. I fit all the requirements listed there. I am really a rocket scientist. He says, fabulous. Come on down to the office. Let's interview, and I'll set up a meeting. He says, well, here's the thing. I don't want to come to your office. I've been homeless for over 4 years, and I'm really quite filthy. I stink, and I look terrible. The guy said, well, help me with this. You're a rocket scientist. You got all these. What happened to you? He said, well, I was having difficulty in my marriage. My wife left. Then she divorced, filed for divorce, and I got into a depression, started drinking heavily, and got fired. And ultimately lost my home and wound up on the street for 4 years. And he said, well, how did you find out about this? He says, well, I was in the park, and it was a newspaper someone left, and I got it, and I was reading it, and I got attracted to this ad. And he said, look, I'm going to come meet you. I know you don't want to come into my office. So we went down to meet the guy, and he was right. He was dirty, he stunk, and he looked terrible. But he interviewed him, and he said, you know what? I think you're telling me the truth. He says, what I'm going to do is get you a hotel. You get all cleaned up, and I'll go buy you a suit and shoes and ties and socks and all this stuff, and we're going to get you presentable. And he did. And he set up the meeting, and they hired him. So somewhere within him was a spark of resilience that he decided, enough. I'm better than this. I don't have to suffer all of this. And as he said, he got the job. Now, here's the beauty of the story. After he got the job, he was talking to the owner of the firm, and he says, you've kind of helped me fill my dream. What's your dream? He says, I'd really like to have my own agency. I just can't afford to set it up. 2 years goes by, and a guy calls him. He says, how you doing? He says, I'm doing great. How are you? He's wonderful. The job's great. My life is wonderful. And he says, look, I just had this great thing happen. I had a relative I didn't know about died and left me millions of dollars. And I want to give you the money to start your firm. So here's resilience building up and getting to people's hearts and minds. So one of the things I've learned is we have to learn how to build our resilience power. And we can do that in a lot of ways. I want to share another quick story about you that is, to me, very powerful. There was a group of social workers in South America, and they were working with the people, educating, training, and doing things. And they were told about a garbage dump where a lot of children lived. And that's where they lived, where they ate and all. So they went to this garbage dump, and sure enough, there were a bunch of kids in there, and they all ran away but one. And this one kid comes up to him and starts talking to him. And they said to him, well, what do you want? And he said, I want to learn. I want to be educated. They took him in. They said it took over 3 days to clean the dirt from his body and his hair. And they got him into school, and he progressed. 8 years later, he graduated from Harvard and committed to go back to his country and help people. What was interesting, he was interviewed, because it was a unique situation. He was interviewed, and they asked him, what major question do you have for America? And he looked at me and said, why are there hungry and homeless people? He couldn't understand that with the wealth and the abundance he saw everywhere, and yet we have that. Resilience is not a chance. It's a decision. As we decide when things happen to us, are we going to go into a deep depression and sink lower and lower and bury those feelings? Or are we going to make a decision to move forward? As they sang in a song about the future. And the future is if you're optimistic and you believe. So how do you build your resilience? Okay? You can't do it alone. And you can't do it when you're lonely. So you have to have relationships. Annie and I just had an experience. We live in Colorado, and if you follow the news, there's massive fires up there. So we knew we had to come down here because we're also closing up apartments at the end of June. And so we said we hadn't got an evacuation notice or a pre-evacuation notice, although people north of us and south of us did. So we decided, let's move all the things that are real personal to us. So we got some friends. They helped us move all the stuff into their home. And then we left for Houston. And we got to Houston, to our apartment, and there was no air conditioning. It's like 90 degrees in there. And I'm going, all right, this is testing my resilience. You know? But here's the beauty. When we had to make that move out of our home, we had neighbors and people helping us. We had friends and family calling us from around the country, saying, how are you? Are you safe? Are you okay? We had people calling us so we could express our first frustration, and yes, anger at times. But we had resources. We were loved and we were cared about. So we didn't fall into a deep depression, and we believed whatever happened, even if the house burnt totally, and we're actually, if it burnt, we wanted it to burn totally and not halfway. We had resilience. We had people who loved us and cared about it. But we built that. So you have a community here where you can build relationships. You don't have friends? Go out and make friends. You got to be a friend to have friends. You know, join civic organizations, join charities. Do things that will put you outside of your little box and home, but create things where you find love and caring and passion and love, because that will carry you through tragedy. Richard Tedeschi, a professor at psychology at North Carolina University, said, tragedy can cause you to lose your sense of self and others and damage your future. If you are resilient and you have relationships and friendships and family, you can't lose your resilience. You can lose stuff, but stuff is replaceable. I mean, we have 4 kids and 6 grandkids. They're all gathering around telephonically and all, and we have a son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandsons in Durango, and they're helping watch the house and take care of it. You know, while they've got all their own worries, but there's a beauty in resilience. There's a power in resilience, and I encourage you all to rebuild your resilience. I think we've got a little time left, and I spoke with Jen. I'd like to open this up for questions. I think it's, so if you have anything you'd like to ask. I will ask anything. I will answer anything you ask. And if I don't know an answer, I'll be glad to tell you. So please, anybody have a question they would like to query? Don't all jump up at once. Aha.
What is the bridge between...
Wait a minute.
Oh. What is the bridge between resilience and hopelessness?
The bridge?
Or vice versa, hopelessness
Okay.
and resilience. What is the bridge?
Well, hopelessness is where you do not believe anything can work out for you. Resilience is where you believe, you're optimistic about the future, regardless of the circumstances. So how do you bridge it? You bridge it by building your resilience in life. Coming to this incredible facility that's full of love and caring. You create friendships. You join a caregiver's organization. You do something to help other people. That will give you a sense of joy that I assure you is beyond hopelessness. So if you got friends, call them. If you got family you haven't talked to, heal that bridge. Open your heart to things that you find joyful. And if they weren't joyful, look at why they weren't. And then open your heart to make them joyful. But this facility right here, Unity, I healed a lot here. It's a beautiful facility. Howard Caesar and I became great friends over the years. And Michael Gott, just a phenomenal minister. And you got so many people here in service. It's just unbelievable. You've got on Sunday, you got prayer people at the front of the service. Go talk to them. They'll embrace you. They'll love you, and they'll pray with you. So don't stay in hopelessness. Move to optimism and get professional help if you need it. There's a lady here who had a question. Somebody over here had a question.
Thank you. I have a specific question. I'm a single mother, and I have wonderful friends, and there is a lot of activities in Houston. But as a single mother, my priority is my kid, and the house, and cook, and clean. How I do that resilience, how I balance this with just rest? Because I know I don't like to be isolated, and it's not my energy.
Right.
But sometimes how you balance do activities and grow by yourself with, I'm just tired, I need peace and do nothing.
Sure. As a single mother, you have a challenge.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you also have, do you have family here?
No.
Okay. But you have your children here.
Yes.
You love them.
Yeah.
And they love you.
Oh, yes.
What a great start.
Yes, that's
Okay.
wonderful. It's a blessing.
All right.
No problem.
Now, you can come here and put your kids in school, class on Sunday. So you could communicate and create relationships with, I'm putting my hand up so I can see you. You can create relationships with other people, maybe single mothers. I would talk to some of these ministers because they have a resource of knowledge that can be very helpful to you. The beauty is you're thinking about it and you want to do it. You have resilience. You need to build it. You need to create relationships where you can express your deepest feelings and people will share with you their deepest feelings. And you'll build a happier life.
Yeah, but my thing is how you balance that resting and do things all the time. Is that...
You'll have to come to that decision. But give enough to yourself. I'm sure you give tremendous to your children.
Okay, thank you.
Give enough to yourself where you get fed. You have to feed yourself.
Yes.
You have to fill your love quotient, your care quotient for you. Then you'll have more to give your children and more to give to your life. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Somebody back here had a
We have
question?
one more over here. Let me come to Francis real quick, and I'll be ready.
Just real quickly, the Unity does have a mothers group that meets, and if you call the church office, you can get the information. Any mother that has children and just wants to meet with other mothers and get ideas, that's just a resource you might consider.
That's great. Thank you, Francis.
That's resilience.
Who had their hand?
Hi, you mentioned the Mankind Project.
Yes.
Oh, that sounds so loud. Did you feel like that you were only able to speak to men about the issue that you had, and what age of a man would be able to take advantage of that program?
You know, I had a lot of female therapists, and but being able to talk to men to men, was powerful. And there's a ladies group of this called Women Within, and which is also very powerful for women to join, where they can get tremendous support as they're moving through life and they're dealing with issues. You know, these groups don't charge; their resilience personified, because they have a mission to help people grow and help people heal. Thank you. Question?
Yes, sir. I'm a substance abuse counselor, and I think I heard about what you were saying. I really resonate with that attitude. I wondered if you ever went through a process, which I tell my clients, is a situation where you gave yourself forgiveness for what happened to you.
You know, that was very difficult. There's a point in my life I got very close to suicide. And just because it seemed hopeless. I mean, I had some tragedies in my life. I mean, I created businesses and I made stupid mistakes and they failed where I could have made millions of dollars. I've made millions of dollars and lost millions of dollars. I entered a transaction in 2011, put a lot of money in, and it went bad, and there were lawsuits, and I got sued for 5 years. They sued my children. I spent $800,000 on legal fees. You know, it was a very low point in my life, and fortunately, my wife and Dr. Skeers gave me a lot of support to get through that. You know, and there is where I started building my resilience. But I had to let all that go because I had to recreate a life. I mean, we lost virtually all our retirement. And I've had to rebuild that. And fortunately, I've been able to do that. I'm not done with it yet, but, you know, unfortunately, I love what I do. Did I answer your question, or did I?
I didn't understand. Did you say that you ever forgive yourself for what happened to you?
Yes, okay. I noticed I avoided that.
Because the situation is, when you talk about addiction, or you talk about alcoholism or otherwise, the circumstance is we have so much shame, we have so much guilt, we have so much self-hatred that we can't move beyond where we are until we forgive ourselves for what happened to us, and then we can forgive the other person.
Right.
It's not a question of letting them go of their they own what they have to do, because the universe will certainly make atonement for them. But the situation is, in your life, if you come to forgiveness, then this
I had to forgive myself first.
That's what I'm saying.
And I did that with a lot of love, because I believed I was truly guilty. I believed I was the guilty party, not the perpetrator.
I understand.
You know, so I had to forgive myself and get to that point where I found love for myself. At age 60, I confronted the abuser, who was 94 years old. And he didn't like the confrontation, but it wasn't a dialogue. I had something to say to him, and I said it. And Howard and I had lunch after that, and he said, "Did you forgive him?" And I said, "Somebody else can forgive him. Right now, I'm not prepared to do that." You know, quite frankly, what the last thing I said to him, I wish you rot in hell. No, I wish you experienced hell here on earth. This guy was a predator. And the weirdest thing I found out later as I grew up, the community knew he was a predator. And he preyed on young boys for decades. Do I have sympathy for him? You know, I'll get there. What I do is love myself, and I've forgiven myself because I did not do anything wrong.
That's the most important thing, because the situation is a lot of times people will carry the guilt that they did something wrong.
I did for over 50 years.
I understand. Okay.
So I'll give you his name. You can forgive him if you like. All right, I want to thank you all very much for this opportunity. This is a gift to be able to speak here at this wonderful facility, and to you people.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.